Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Film Hub NI podcast, number 19 in the roll call, the roll of honour of Film Hub NI podcast. I'm joined as ever by Sara Gunsmith.
Hello.
Hello, Sara Gunsmith. And today we're delighted to be joined by Isabella Koban.
Hello.
From Ghouls on Film. Ghouls on Film are a tremendous, reasonably new collective of kind of film screenings and stuff. And you're the main programmer, is that right, Isabella?
Yeah, so main programmer, and I do a lot of the design stuff as well, social media stuff as well.
Well, we're delighted to have you here. We've been supporting you for about 2 years, I think, now, through the Black Box, and yeah, so we wanted this opportunity to have you into the podcast and have a chat about Ghouls on Film and why we love film and why we love cinema and all that sort of stuff.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
That's all right.
Yeah, I've listened to before, and it's just exciting to be able to chat more about
an actual listener.
Nobody's ever said that
Nobody's
before.
said
Nobody
that.
said that.
I've heard of it, but never listened.
Yeah, I've got a friend who listens.
Yeah.
But it's great to see you. We should as well say that this is our first live podcast since March 2020.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of Zoom ones, so it's really nice to be back in the studio.
In real life.
With Stephen looking at us and with a real life guest, and it's lovely. So tell us a bit about yourself, Isabella. How did you first get into film and how did you fall in love with film?
I guess through a number of reasons, but primarily probably when I was a teenager. I really started getting obsessed with films. I think like a lot of teenagers, I struggled a lot when I was a teenager. So being able to retreat into myself a little bit and just watch films, I started realizing that there were so many different experiences out there and different worlds out there. I had a lot of problems when I was a teenager with my identity, finding out that I was queer and not feeling like there was anyone around me who really had that experience as well. So being able to watch films and live that life through the films.
Vicariously.
Yeah, that's definitely where I started,
Yeah, I think a lot of people get into it because of other worlds, isn't it?
And relatable stories.
Escapism,
And,
yeah, totally.
I think it's the escapism that does it, especially in teenage years. Yeah, no, I mean, I can remember watching Spike Lee films and thinking to myself, that's got nothing to do with my life. But, but it's fascinating to watch it and to kind of feel other people sort of struggle and things like that. And so in terms of film programming, when did you start dipping your toe in starting to show films? And
Well, that was really recently. That was last October was with our first screening. I studied film at university. I studied film theory.
Okay.
And we put together a screening event as part of a festival for that. So that was kind of the very first event ever. But
What
I don't
did you
really
screen?
know. We screened a Chinese film. Oh my God, I can't even remember the name now. But it was a really interesting film. It was about LGBT Chinese children and their relationships with their parents,
Right.
and that kind of intergenerational stuff. So that was really, really good fun. But yeah, last October was the very first proper screening event.
Okay.
And it was great. It was brilliant.
And what did you like about it?
I think there was a couple of different things I liked. I'm not classically great at speaking in front of groups of people, which is something that I've had to get through because when you do screenings and do introductions, there's people there. But I think just seeing loads of people in one space all enjoying the same experience and enjoying a film, especially when it comes to a film that I love, and I feel like lots of people around me don't know it or haven't seen it, being able to talk to people afterwards and get their kind of feedback from it is always just really, really
There's
good.
nothing like it. There's really
Exactly.
nothing like it at all.
And especially whenever you have events and you don't know everybody in the room, which is where you get really excited for
Yeah,
us.
yeah, yeah.
When you're like, I don't know these people.
These aren't all my friends.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, that's a special kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Where did the idea for Ghouls on Film come from then? The idea for the club?
Ghouls on Film, it kind of came from what I studied at uni. I studied film and I had a really specific focus on female sexuality in horror films. It was something I really was drawn towards. But in my studies, I was discovering some really interesting writings about objection and feminism. But then when it came to looking at audiences, there wasn't really any massive research done into audiences, specifically women as audiences. It focused a lot on men. And I felt like there was a real big gap between my experience, the women around me who all loved horror films. A lot of the men around me hated horror films. And I was just kind of like, this is not lining up. So I just wanted to kind of bridge that gap and put those films out there that people could relate to and experience. Yeah.
Brilliant. And what sort of events have you put on so far?
So we do our regular monthly screenings that are just in the green room at the Black Box. Sometimes we have intros and Q&As and stuff. Some of our kind of bigger immersive screenings, which were super fun. We did the Carrie prom party, which was one of my favorites. It was great. We had like a photographer come in and a DJ and stuff like that, and it was a proper dress-up event.
So it was like they entered and it was a prom? Was that the idea?
It was like a prom hall. We had like terrible decorations all the way around, disco ball and stuff like that. And people properly dressed up for it. Like they were decked out in tuxedos and stuff. It was brilliant. So that was really fun.
I shudder to ask, was there any pig's blood involved?
No.
That's good. That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
you could take immersion too far. You know?
I used to work behind the bar at the Black Box, and I just thought I couldn't do it to the staff members.
Risk assessment as well. Risk assessment. Yeah. Like something's coming.
Do you think pig's blood is there an infection possibility?
Slight disease risk. I'm just after COVID.
Well, yeah, I suppose people get a bit icky about that sort of thing.
Just thought.
Dry cleaning bills. That was what would worry me.
Yeah, that would be a nightmare.
So is that the sort of the main immersive one you've done?
We've done a live score event as well, which was probably like top of the experiences that I've ever done with film screenings.
What was the film?
So great. It was A Page of Madness, Japanese 20s avant-garde film. So it was very out there, and a lot of people hadn't seen it before. But the score was incredible. Like they just blew out of the water.
People raved about it. Lots of people.
Well, that's great. I mean, it was brilliant. It was Aoife Wolf who kind of curated the live score aspect of it, and then we had Phil Quinn and Cameron Clark perform as well, and they like created an entire original score based on the film. And I'd heard snippets before the screening, but sitting down and then hearing it fully in the room, they kind of did like Foley effects and stuff like that.
Oh wow!
When there was like a bird on screen, they had like bird effects. I was like, I couldn't believe how much they put into it, and it was brilliant.
What was I mean, we've had very good reaction, but what was the reaction like in the room?
It was really great. We did it in 2 parts. There was an interval in the middle, so I kind of got to drift around and chat to people. There were lots of people who came who had no idea what the event was. They'd just seen it on the Black Box website, and they were just loving it. I think it was that balance of old people who'd loved the film, who've seen it lots of times and were a bit apprehensive about how we might approach the live score part. But you know, I think taking something classic, making it something new was really interesting, and people really enjoyed it.
Fascinating. Good work. I was going to ask, you know, when you're planning these sort of things, what comes first? Is it the film and then the event, or the event then the film? Do you know what I mean by that question? It's sort of, you know, sometimes event cinema can be really, it's about the event as opposed to watching the actual film. I mean, for you, is it the film programming first and then add the event afterwards, or? Well,
the aim is definitely the film first. I think the film should be the focus of any kind of major event. Whether that happens is a different thing. You know, when it came to the Carrie prom party, Carrie was very much the focus, because the prom scenes in the film kind of dictated what the immersive event would be. The Page of Madness was actually originally meant to be a different film that we were screening, but we ran into issues with licensing. We were asked for £500 for a single license.
Yes, it can be an expensive business.
And we don't have that kind of money, so we had to change it. But I think it actually worked out better in a way. Because it was just a different experience, a different film. So I think it kind of depends. Film should be the focus. Oftentimes it is, but sometimes you get an idea and you just want to roll with it. You know?
And I suppose for certain films that people have seen an awful lot, like I suppose Carrie would be the sort of film that a lot of people have already seen. Our friends down in Newcastle, they've done a lot of immersive stuff down the years, like the Ghostbusters one where they got an old hearse and they did it up like the ambulance and all that sort of thing. And you know, a film like Ghostbusters you've seen quite often, but something like a quite rare Japanese horror film from the 1920s is something that, you know, getting the balance right between event and that sort of thing can be difficult. But
and I think it's also how you present it to the audience. You know, with the Page of Madness, it wasn't kind of. It was more traditional in a way of a screening
event.
event.
It's a live score.
Yeah, and we gave kind of an introduction that looked at the history and the culture around the film rather than building it into something super fun. Because it's quite a serious film. It's quite serious topics. So, yeah, I think it depends on how you approach it. Yeah.
Can we talk a bit about your zine?
Oh, yes.
Yes, please do. I should have brought a copy with me to show off.
We have them.
Do
in
we
the
have
office.
one in the office?
Yeah.
That's all right. People just have to buy them.
It's a thing of beauty. It is a thing of beauty.
It is a thing of beauty. It's really gorgeous.
That's so nice to hear. The zine was brilliant. That came out. The launch was actually part of the Carrie prom party, so we kind of put it all together. And I just loved making it. I'm a freelance illustrator, so I did the cover art and a lot of the design elements inside. But we got some writers to put together some brilliant pieces for it. I think one of my favorites is Lucy's piece. Did you read that? It's kind of the think piece.
Oh yes,
Approaching kind of like a discussion with other men who are also script writers on, you know, how they see horror, specifically women's trauma in horror. And I think that was a really personal piece for her because she is a script writer. She's been to those events before.
Right.
So it was having an insight.
It's a really interesting sort of thing. I mean, I've always found sort of horror is quite an exploitative genre. I suppose, or it could be seen as quite an exploitative genre. And there are, I would imagine, difficulties around some of the representations of kind of violence against women and, you know, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's often in quite a complex way, or presented in quite a complex way. Like something like Nightmare on Elm Street is not a simple kind of telling of a tale. There's a lot of complex psychological ideas in there and that sort of thing. How difficult is it to present those kind of quite complex, sometimes difficult, like Dario Argento, some of the things are quite difficult to engage with it. Is that something that you've found with audiences about having to talk through it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it also comes down to who's making the films. You know, a lot of the films, like Rosemary's Baby is one of my favourite films, but it's so problematic.
It's very, very problematic indeed.
The creator of the film, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't enjoy the films or get something out of it. I think it depends on the way that you look at it and how we can kind of reimagine approaching films. You know, you don't have to look at a film and think this is just violent. You can think, what can we actually learn from this? What can we personally get out of it? And how can we rewrite those stories from that perspective?
Yeah, and I suppose how audiences take that. I mean, I don't think it's like a case for trigger warnings, but maybe being aware when you have people in the room, you know, that there could be reactions to things.
Yeah, there's certain films that I definitely wouldn't screen. There's some that I would recommend, like on our watch lists for people to watch, because I personally enjoy them. But I think, especially being in a room surrounded by people, that can be quite a difficult experience. If you haven't seen a film, you don't know what to expect, and there's some triggering aspects of it.
There's a responsibility then as a programmer to make sure things are...
I want people to enjoy themselves, you know, and I think definitely part of horror film is working through trauma, working through issues, not necessarily in a room full of other people.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean, I suppose it's that sort of reminder that it's not real life and a lot. I mean, and traditionally my opinion of horror would be that it's so ridiculous that it couldn't be real, if that makes sense. But, you know, I mean, I remember when Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer was shown. Is that a horror movie? I'm not entirely sure that's really a horror movie per se, but it, you know, it's a very horrific and horrifying film, and it being shown at the QFT and in terms of the conversation around it. But it's still representation, and it was still not glamorizing. That's not the right word, but sort of raising a story like that up to an importance level, and you know, and. I think it can be a problematic genre, I suppose, is what I mean.
Yeah, I think it depends on who's watching it and how people approach it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same with any genre. You know, you think about people who respond to films like Batman.
True.
Sometimes there's a backlash there, and that's
Joker or those.
Those are mainstream Hollywood films that we wouldn't really question screening. So, you know, there's...
Yeah, no, I do know what you mean.
You know,
there are maybe lots and lots of films actually have problems within them, but that doesn't mean that they don't get screened. And you can do it in a kind of safe and learning kind of atmosphere and stuff. I suppose the zine helps with that as well.
Yeah. I think we also have to trust your audiences. You know, people aren't stupid. People know what they need to get out of films, and I think...
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go and see a screening of Cannibal Holocaust, you're going to go and see a screening, you know.
Yeah, you know what to expect.
Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound, I suppose. I mean, it's great for us from our perspective in terms of the zine. You know, film criticism is pretty low on the ground in Northern Ireland. You know,
Yeah.
we don't really have, none of the newspapers really write about film anymore, and it's really just, you know, certain blogs and things like that. So we were delighted with the idea of the zine, just in terms of people talking about film, writing about film coming from Belfast and stuff. So it was great.
Absolutely.
And it looked gorgeous, so that helped.
Well, that's good. Yeah, I mean, there's so many blogs and so many local blogs, and they're all brilliant. There's so much interesting content out there. I think sometimes it can just get lost in the ether a little bit, and there's like a permanence to a zine, something you can physically
Kind of
hold.
tangible,
You can put on your bookshelf and pick up and read if you're just sitting at home.
No, it's great.
Like,
I mean, I was raised in the in 1980s, the glory days of the zine. So you know, where everyone was putting one out and things like that. So it's great to see. It's great to see.
What sort of community have you created around the club? Do you see kind of people regularly involved and going back to events?
Yeah, absolutely. That's been the thing that was the most surprising and the most exciting about Sara and Ghouls on Film, was how many people come back. We built a regular following, like within 3 or 4
Very
screenings.
quickly,
Yeah, I think we have a group of at least 10 that come back to every single event, which is brilliant.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And they're all kind of friends before they came,
Right.
and now they're my friends as well, because they're all people who love horror. So it's like building that community. But yeah, it's always interesting seeing new faces and like gauging if they're going to come back or not, or seeing people who came like last year and then return this year.
Yeah, okay.
I think because of the frequency of the screenings, not everyone can come to every single one,
Yeah.
even if they want to be involved. So I think that's something we're going to try and build on a little bit more as we go forward, is getting people involved in between the screenings to build a community where people can talk about films if they even can't come, you know, once a month for whatever reason.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, that reliability in terms of screening is always important in building that kind of community and stuff, and you seem to have that. And we should say thanks to the Black Box as well, in terms of the venue and things.
Yeah, that's a massive part of it as well.
Yeah. I think it's always that kind of reliability for audiences, so they know that if they miss one, then there'll be another one along later on. I think that's always a key, and if you can do it, if you can pull it off, then it does help grow that. I mean, I always just find it fascinating, kind of communities that coalesce around film, you know, and the different kinds of people, you know, a genre film. It's interesting. Newry Film Club did a football, actually not Newry Film Club, but down in Newry there was a football film festival that took place a couple of months in July.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And you know, again, there's a little community of people who are fascinated by soccer films and films about sport in general, who kind of coalesce around that sort of thing. It's just really interesting how a genre of film can just draw all sorts of people from all sorts of different walks of life to that genre. It's great.
And I mean, it's a community experience at the end of the day, and that's something I really like about doing it at the Black Box, especially in the green room. You know, it's a pub space basically that is a makeshift cinema. So people stick around for a pint afterwards, and it means that the discussion starts and people can really engage afterwards.
I was going to ask you sort of plans for the future, but I reminded myself on the walk over here that I have to get this right, the BFI's new season, which has had some issues around launching over the last week and things, but it is coming. In Dreams Are Monsters. Have I got that right?
You have. Yeah. What do you keep calling it? I Am Monsters?
I keep getting confused with I Am Belfast.
But that was years ago.
I know, but
I
Am Belfast in
or
Dreams
something.
Monsters. And anyway,
Oh, cute.
Not
Get a
very-
hold of yourself.
not very good at messaging, but anyway, you're playing a part in that season, which is forthcoming. So that'll be running through October, November, I think, is right.
And
yeah?
December
And
as well,
December.
I think,
Okay, so tell us about what your Girls on Film are involved, but also you've done some programming as well.
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple of things that we're doing. Our specific season is across October for In Dreams Are Monsters. Our first event is an exhibition launch. So we've got local artist Triona Doyle. She's put together some original pieces for an exhibition in response to In Dreams Are Monsters specifically. So that's going to be great. And we're going to be screening some like heritage films from Northern Ireland screen.
Okay,
Amazing.
As part of that with some DJs. So it'll just be in a kind of nice, more relaxed screening event.
Some of those films that the Spence brothers made in the 70s are really
Yeah.
really
Oh,
scary.
They're brilliant though.
I can't remember. There's one about I think it's called Caleb or something like that. That's really
The
atmospheric.
Testament of Caleb
That's
Meek.
the one. My goodness, that's
Yeah.
I mean, that's a proper horror film. That's really scary.
And
probably.
it's the graininess that really adds to that.
And all that
fear,
strangeness around Strangford Loch, and you know, kind of. I mean, the peninsula is a pretty strange place at the best of times. But
I know there's a whole history there that I'm like, maybe in the future.
So that's the first thing in terms of the exhibition.
Yeah, so
and
that's
screening.
on the 2nd of October. It's free entry and it's in the green room.
Right, okay.
And then kind of our bigger event will be on the 30th. Our Samhain kind of event. It's going to be a whole day event. So we've got a market in the green room from 12 till 3, I think, like a creative horror market. So you can buy bits and bobs from local creatives.
Occult things.
Possibly.
Can I buy a
You'll have
monkey's
to come
hand?
and
Can I
find
get a
out.
monkey's claw or something like that?
Maybe.
Make a wish on it?
You'd be too scared to go.
I would be a bit scared. I might send someone
So
down.
scared of horror films.
Monkey's claw. I always wanted a monkey's claw. But anyway, sorry. I digress.
Do that for your
We can
birthday
get you
next
that
year.
Well, it's a you know, a fair kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's kind of like an open fair market, and we'll have the bar open for that. And then we've got a double screening in the main room. So the first film is Blood on Satan's Claw.
Yeah.
We're going with kind of a folklore witchcraft theme for the day. And then the second screening will be The Witch in the evening,
Fantastic.
which is going to be more of an immersive screening.
That's the modern one.
Yeah,
okay.
the 2015 one. So we've also got some performers, some trad performers to play a set before that. So that'll be really, really interesting.
What an event. That sounds brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's at the Black Box on the
That's on the 30th of October.
30th
in the
of
Black
October.
Box.
Okay, great. And in terms of the stuff at QFT, that's coming up later on?
Yeah, so QFT will be kind of end of November, beginning of December. There's 3 screenings that we're putting on as part of a queer seance event.
Right.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is like right up my street. I'm so excited to be able to put it together. But, so we're screening films. We're screening The Haunting as our final film. We're also screening The Uninvited and The Old Dark House. So we're looking at kind of older films and the representations of queer people in those films, how they're kind of hidden away. And it's based on this theory of the apparitional lesbian, which is kind of the idea that throughout culture, lesbians and generally queer people have been hidden away. Even though we know that they're there, they're just kind of left, you know? So
there's the unwillingness to kind of name people, or
it's almost like an awareness,
yeah,
but not wanting to recognize the reality of that. So those
like Queen Victoria, I suppose. But I don't know.
Is she queer?
No, Queen Victoria would just couldn't get her head around the idea that there might be lesbians in the world. So.
I thought you were saying she was a lesbian.
No, I think that's treason, Isabella, to say that. So I'm not
quite.
I don't know. If
Well, you said it, not me.
No. Somebody described lesbianism to her, and she refused to believe that it could be true.
Wow.
So there was a kind of invisibility, a kind of
I think,
unwillingness to just give it its place or give it its name. Or
Yeah, so those screenings are going to be brilliant, and each one of those has an immersive aspect to it as well. Especially the final one I'm very, very excited for. That's going to be The Haunting. And we've got some local drag performers to come in and kind of offer like an immersive performance aspect around the film.
You mentioned seance. I mean, will you be touching the other side in any way, or, you know?
Maybe. We're definitely going to be talking about tarot around one of the screenings, and a kind of a discussion about the meaning of tarot cards and the history of tarot cards. I don't know if we can get an actual seance. I don't know. Is the QFT haunted?
Probably.
We can tell you some stories.
There's probably quite a few ushers who are locked up on the walls or something. But down the years,
wheel them out.
Yeah, from the 1970s or something like that. But it sounds fascinating. I mean, obviously, trigger warning, seance, witchcraft, all that sort of stuff. You need to be careful. Just in case, just in case you do, contact the other side,
In case demons come out to play.
Some old film producer or something like that from the 1960s.
That's what we want.
As long as you can get them back in, don't leave them in KFT.
Yeah, Brian Desmond Hurst contacts you from the other side.
We have to work there.
Oh, that's true. Need to put
I'll make sure they get gone after the screening.
Put them in the trap like Ghostbusters and take them away or something.
Yeah, we'll bring the Hurst out.
Oh dear. Well, that's brilliant. That's really exciting then. But being able to program in the cinema as well as in the Black Box.
I'm absolutely buzzing about that. I'm a huge fan of the QFT and have been for years. So being able to put on events in the QFT is just going to be really exciting.
I think it's a testament to the programming that you've been doing so far. So.
Yes, I think we can both say that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Just one final question. So for those people thinking of starting a film club, would you have any advice for them? Because we often meet people who are like, oh, I want to start a film club. It's going to be brilliant. I'm going to wing on a DVD in a pub and it's free if we don't charge in. And there's so many, you know. So it is a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And you need good people around you, and you need to have so many different skills. Obviously, you're an illustrator and you're great at the market and all that stuff. But what advice would you give to people?
There are definitely lots of skills, but I'd say a lot of them you can learn. I learned most of the programming through experience, through putting on the events. But I think the main thing I would say would be reach out to people around you. Right. You know, if you're interested in doing something and you say to people you know who do programming, they always want to be involved. They always want to give a hand. I've found actually Cinema for All really helpful tool. They have loads of resources on their website, and they offered us some funding and training as well.
Is that through their Sustain program?
Yeah, and that's one-on-one coaching. You know, and they offer that to anyone who wants to start if they've been functioning for a while. So I think that's a really great resource. But the main thing I would say is just like, I think you've got to get past the idea that you can't do it and just start doing it. You'll make mistakes along the way. That's the same as everything in life. But if people are coming to your events and you're putting on films that you feel really passionate about, they're going to come. You know, the main thing is that you love what you're doing. That will show in what you're doing.
Okay.
That's lovely advice.
That's good advice.
Yes.
Good advice indeed. Well, Isabella, thank you very much for coming on to the
Thanks so much for having me.
podcast. It's a pleasure. So the next Girls on Film screening is...
So the next screening, well, we're doing the exhibition launch on the 2nd of October.
2nd of October, okay.
And then the next monthly screening is Whatever Happened to Baby Jane on the 16th of October.
That's
and
a classic.
We're doing a discussion on hagsploitation cinema as well.
And coat hangers?
Coat hangers? That's not...
Coat hangers, no. Joan
you
Crawford.
Mean Joe Crawford?
Joan Crawford beat her child with coat hangers, allegedly. I don't even know. Nobody really knows whether she did or
really?
not. I know this stuff. Absolutely.
Mummy Dearest.
Mummy Dearest, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, there's some very strange people in 50s Hollywood. Well, both of them are quite interesting characters. All right. Well, look, thank you very much, and look out for that. And we'll keep a close eye and keep supporting.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Isabella. Well, thank you very much to Isabella Koban of Ghouls on Film. And remember to check our website and the Black Box website for upcoming dates and bookings. Sarah Gunn-Smith, what should we talk about now?
Well, there's some very exciting news about a new collective.
I love exciting news. It's the best kind of news.
Yeah, actually today, I mean, we are launching the new collective tour.
Yes.
Which is an Irish language film.
A first for the Film Hub. Great.
First for the Film Hub. And
you should tell people what the collective tour is for new listeners.
For new listeners. So the collective tour is an initiative which brings the best in sort of independent film from Northern Ireland and from Ireland around the Community Cinema Network and in Northern Ireland. And we've been going now since 2018.
Gosh, really? As long as that?
2018. Well, a bit of a quiet period during COVID.
There was the COVID, wasn't
there? Was the COVID.
Uh-huh.
So we couldn't actually get the people into the places. But now we're back. This is our fourth film since last December. So we had Nowhere Special in December. Then we had Wildfire. And then we had Here Before. And on the 4th of October, we will be starting our new tour of Róise and Frank.
Lovely.
And we're very excited. So this film is part of the kind of new wave of Irish language films that are making waves across the world. So there's been titles like Dinian and Aracht, and obviously the big one, The Quiet Girl.
Yeah, which is past €1 million at the box office, apparently.
And the most successful Irish language film of all time.
Easily. Yeah.
And has been selected as Ireland's entry for the International Best Feature Film.
Right, for the Oscars next year.
95th Academy Awards.
The 95th, it says
here. To give
here.
them their full name.
Right. Glad you're counting.
Yes, well, I had written it down here now. So, yes, and it won like 7 IFTAs and broke all sorts of box office records. So, this film, Róise and Frank, is being released by the same distributor, Breakout Pictures, who are absolutely fabulous and have been a pleasure to work with in getting this tour together. This is a very different film The films we've kind of mentioned there are
They're quite dark.
quite
I think
dark
it's fair to
and,
say.
you know, not, I would say difficult to watch, but, you know, had times that there was difficult, you know,
Challenging.
challenging. That's a good word for them. But Róise Frank is just a lovely film about love and grief and a wee dog.
It's talking
and
about
hurling
seances. Yeah.
and seances.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah.
And it's just really delightful. In fact, what did the Irish Times said, a genuinely delightful film.
It is a genuinely delightful
And
film.
I think
that's
that
fair to
just
say. Yeah.
sums it up. It's a wee gem of a film. And it's opened on Friday there, and seems to be doing well in the box office so far. So, and again, we're very grateful to Breakout Pictures because we are starting the tour very close to the cinema release, and there'll also be a tour of cinemas in the south through our pals down at Access Cinema.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So there literally is not a county in Ireland you will not be able to see this film in. And if you don't mind, I'm going to run through the list of places, if
Please
that's
do.
okay.
No.
Now, there are 8 venues you
Right.
can go and see. And the first one is Radio Fulcher, which is in Belfast, and that's Tuesday the 4th of October, which is also my 42nd birthday.
No.
It's very exciting.
42.
So, I know.
I was a peg to 39. But there you go.
So I shall be over there putting up a screen on my birthday, putting up a large
The
screen in
best
that
kind of
venue.
birthday.
Heading up to Roe Valley Arts and Cultural Centre in Limavady on Thursday the 6th of October, over to Ormo Community Cinema on Thursday the 13th of October, Flowerfield Arts Centre in Port Stewart on Thursday the 20th of October, Fermanagh Film Club.
Lovely. Down in the lakes.
Down at the
Always
lakes,
nice.
down, you can catch it in the Ardoin Theatre on Wednesday the 26th of October. Unid na Foissiga in Twinbrook. I hope I said that right.
That's the Irish language
Centre.
up in Twinbrook, yeah.
Yeah, on Wednesday the 26th of October. Portrush Film Theatre on Thursday the 10th of November, and then right down to Newcastle, also on Thursday the 10th of November. So if you're at a seaside town,
Yeah.
go and see it on that evening.
And that's part of the festival, I think, isn't it?
Part of
Blackmood
the festival. I think it might be the opening night of the festival,
Okay.
which is very exciting. And there will also be pre-recorded Q&As with the writer-directors Rachel Moriarty and Peter Murphy after some of the screenings. One will be in Irish, hosted by Tessa Fleming, who's a radio and TV presenter, who's worked in Blascure and all that sort of thing. And the other one will be in English, hosted by Hugh Smee. I don't know if you know that guy.
I've heard of him.
Yes.
Good to stay away from him.
Yes, that will be recorded by yourself, and you can check with which version they're going to show. But I would highly recommend for just a lovely, gentle
I think it's a
night out.
Having seen it, it's charm is the word.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, it's not a particularly challenging film, but it's about grief and it's about fun and sport. And it's got some very sort of traditional bits that you kind of expect from a film in terms of, you know, kind of people working through adversity and all that sort of stuff. But there's a beautiful heart to it, and we really hope, you know, that it'll find its audience, and I think there's definitely an audience for it out there.
definitely. I think it's a real word of mouth film as well.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's just, there's performances are lovely as well. I mean, some of the actors, and Lorcan Cranach gives a great bad guy.
Oh, a departure
performance. Yeah, I know, wouldn't we like him? And of course the dog itself is
he's the star
of the show. Amazing
Yeah.
stuff. So yeah, no, it's lovely. If you love your hurling, it's a good one for that as well. So there's lots to learn in it as well from people from outside the Irish language culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all set in the beautiful. It's Waterford, isn't it?
Wexford.
Wexford.
Is it Wexford or Waterford?
One of the W's.
One of the W Fords.
One of the W's is not Wicklow.
No,
I think we can say that.
Not Wicklow.
But it's very beautiful, and so it's really worth seeing.
Absolutely, we're absolutely delighted, and hopefully people will come out and see it.
Yep. Okay, so that's starting on the 9th of October, is it?
4th of October.
4th of October through to the
10th of November.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. So, and we'll get information from our website and from our members' websites as well for screening times and bookings and so on. Well, thank you very much. That was the 19th Film Hub NI podcast. Thank you, Sarah, for being here today.
No problem.
Thank you. And thanks as ever to our glamorous and beautiful producer, Stephen Mullan. We'll be back with another podcast within probably the next month, if the Lord spares us. And until then, keep watching films and stay well.